Hello, I'm Denise with Spiritual Growth Tarot, and today I'm going to do a reading on the future of the USA. So I have our natal chart here of our homeland, and I'm going to use the tarot to, I'm going to draw a card for each one of the houses, which relates to an area of our life, of our experience here in the USA. Okay, so I think you might call this like a taroscope. I'm not sure. I've honestly never done it before, but I've been thinking about doing it for a long time. Should have done it sooner, but okay, so moving forward from today, I'm going to draw one card for our first house. Well, let me just draw the cards first. Second house. Okay. All right. So our first house. So I might have to, you know what I'll do? I think I'll just leave them, rather than having the cards laid out and giving you too much to look at and having it be confusing. I'll just go one at a time. So, we came in, or the the inception of USA, final signing happened at 5:10 p.m. In Philadelphia, PA. Of course, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, July 4th, 1776, which gave us a Sagittarius ascendant, which is all about, the Sag ascendant is all about freedom. Freedom and, the right to believe in a bigger reality than, where we previously had come from, which was under a mad king's rule or a crazy king and queen, or, something else that was very authoritarian, top-down over type of control. So we broke free, and so of course we'd have a Sagittarius ascendant, of course. So, and then Sun conjunct Jupiter in Cancer and conjunct Venus. This stellium here in Cancer has to do with honoring all that is sacred and opening up to immigrants, immigration with the relationships there in the house of relationships. It has to do with opening up with Jupiter, opening up to foreigners, and we were foreigners. I mean, unless you were already, unless your lineage and your ancestors was already in Native American ancestry, then you came from another country to get here. So, but let's go with the tarot here, and I'll try to blend it. Okay, so for the first house, we have the Seven of Pentacles. So in the first house, the Seven of Pentacles would relate to what we want to invest in. It relates to, having investments and evaluating in a situation to where, and it's at a bigger stage than like with the Ace of Pentacles. You get an opportunity, to create what it is that you want. But with the Seven, you're at a greater stage, and you're at a further on, development to where it's actually growing into something that it's there and it's manageable, and you have invested, but you're not sure yet where it's going to go. So you're assessing the situation. So right now, where we are in our experience of ourselves as Americans, we are reassessing, reevaluating. We're moving forward in a way that can be more sustainable, and we're looking especially at the health of the earth, the health of the planet. This the Pentacles has to do with any type of ecology, and is it sustainable to keep plundering and raping and pillaging the earth like we have and like other countries do as well. And we're looking at that, like looking down at the earth and wondering, what does Mother Earth need in order to sustain us? And so this is partly our identity right now for most of us, and for others it has to do with the health of not just the earth in the United States, but our physical health. And of course, with the pandemic, worldwide, that is definitely something that really matters. So I guess I'll just leave that there. Okay, so our second house relates to our values and our resources. Now, with Pluto there natally, and especially pretty close to the south node there, we're coming from the place of freedom, humanitarianism. With the south node in Aquarius, it's all about following the law of brotherhood and opening up to humanity in a whole different way. And with the north node in Leo, we're meant to take that energy and consciousness of something bigger than ourselves and to bring our love and our willpower and everything that we have to keep regenerating. Between the second and the eighth house here, the second house is our values and what we actually own and have, and our resources. And then the eighth house is the house of other people's resources. So we're open to other countries. We are a global trader in the market. We always pretty much have been. So with Pluto there natally, we're moving towards our Pluto return. Every 243 to 48 years we have there's a Pluto return. So a country can have a Pluto return, but most people don't in one life. No one would in one lifetime. So natally, just in your own chart, like wherever Pluto lands and the houses that it will transit through are really important to look at as to your life path. But with Pluto landing in our second house, this has to do with our values, and within the sign of Capricorn, this has to do with sustainability and integrity. And so wherever we were out of integrity when, at our inception, like especially the fact that we had slavery, that violates this law of brotherhood here. That violates this law of loving humanity right here in our north and south node. And we are, needing to pay the price for that. We're needing to change that. We're needing to make reparations in some way, or at least honor, what we have done, and to even though it's against the law now, of course, it's still there's still authoritarian tendencies, and there are still the atrocities that are happening, and it's still. That's what this whole Black Lives Matter movement is all about, and we need to keep on keeping on in that direction in order to heal, and healing needs to be honored. We need to hold space for the healing for as long as it takes. So that might be part of what this is about too, is, our identity is changing, and we're reassessing, where we have been. And just because it was that way in the past, 200 and some odd years ago, and prior to that, doesn't mean that it was right. It does not at all. It means that it needs to change. So with within this house for this time here, what we're the values that we're moving towards, we have the seven of cups. Interesting, 2 sevens here. So with the 7 of cups in that second house, we're looking at options. This has to do with not coming from a fantasy place to where you can, on one level it has to do with knowing that you can create just about anything you want within reason. But then on another level, you have to be careful about the fantasy and the smokescreen and the subterfuge and the superimposition of justifying something that was a tradition in the past. It's like we need to break free of that. Now, for anybody who is Christian that may watch this video. These, the Seven of Cups can always have to do with the seven sins, right? So, like going after the riches, the castle in the sky, trying to be, famous, maybe trying to hide. I'm not really sure what that is. Somebody tell me if you know. I think that it has to do with, hiding under the veil of somebody else. And then, I like the snake for transformation, but that can also be about betraying. And the wreath can be, wanting to be famous at all costs, demanding attention. The dragon can have to do with misusing our power, right? So our values are under consideration. We're realizing that we have many, many options, but our values need to consider, we need to be in consideration for everyone. With this South Node in Aquarius, it needs to be about everyone. It needs to be about, all the different options that are possible for all nations, that we trade with, because the second house has to do with our financial freedom and our the things that we hold on to and hold dear. And, in Capricorn, it can be very good, money management if we could do that. But right now I think we're pushing a $3 trillion deficit. Whew. And it's grown immensely under this administration that we're in right now. So that is something that we're all wondering about, this smokescreen that the Trump administration may be pulling over our eyes while they, use PPP money that we've, accounted or agreed to take in, and we have the Fed. This could be the Fed that has just kept printing more money and saying they'll do whatever we need to do to get through it. But in the long run, how will that play out in the long run? So we'll have to keep looking. So our values are going through some change and some consideration, and we need to get clear of this subterfuge. Okay, so then the third house has to do with our communication. Now, the moon is there natally, so that has to do with caring about humanity again, and especially it's in that same side, of Aquarius. Now, Uranus is natally over here in the 6th house, and so that means that there's a correlation here between our health and our service and our work and our communication, being in Gemini, and then here this is the house of communication, so there's a connection there as well, because Uranus rules Aquarius, of course. Okay, so back to the third house here. The card I drew was the Six of Cups. So that has to do with the past. This has to do with children. This has to do with taking care of our children and honoring the gifts of the land and honoring the gifts from our parents, and staying clear of whatever needs to, whatever it is that we need to go through to clear out the past, and staying clear in our focus as to what we want to communicate, because it's in the third house, what we want to communicate to our brothers and sisters. What are our goals? And what do we really think about our goals? Do we believe that there's more than enough for everyone in the universe, and we can share? It's safe to share. I mean, notice there's I don't know if it's a little boy giving his little sister a gift, or if it's an older sister giving the little sister a gift, but there are two kids coming together, and one is offering an invitation. So, natally, of course, when we started the USA, we said, come, everyone come, and come be free with us. right? Come be free with us. It was an invitation to our brothers across the lands, across the pond, from all over. And we are a nation of immigrants. So we're needing to keep that energy and consciousness, that generosity. This is a very generous card. We need to keep thinking that way and keep realizing that is what is the most important, is the giving and receiving of our gifts, and the bringing other people in as well, letting other people come here with their gifts, and to know that things will only get better from there, from opening to that. Okay, so now for the fourth house. So this would be the fourth house is a house of home. It's the house of our homeland, but it's a house of our family. Now, natally, we have Chiron in Aries there, and Chiron is transiting through Aries right now. I think it's at about 8 degrees. So we're sure that natally Chiron is in the fourth house. So we're about moving towards a Chiron return, which happens about every 50 to 51 years. So at this point, it's about knowing that everyone that is here matters, and they all have a right to be here. And we have more than enough to take care of the people that are here, and especially if we're living in more sustainable ways. Now, what we did get in the fourth house, I got the Death card. So this is about big change. And we are going through big changes. We are reassessing, we're reassessing who we are. We're reassessing what values we identify with, right? And we're trying to get out of this, the fantasy of thinking that having all the money and all the wealth and all the riches of the world is what's really important, because that's not really what's important. What's important is that we're healthy and sustainable, and that the earth is sustainable. Otherwise, we don't have anywhere to live. I mean, unless you want to go to Mars with Elon Musk, but no thank you. Not for me. I mean, what if we just stopped exploring space altogether and put that money somewhere else? Or, I don't know. But then again, we've got those satellites up there that we need, right? But we don't necessarily need to be on other planets too much. I don't know. I have my mixed feelings about that. Can you tell? So again, communicating from this is a family-oriented card as well. It just brings in the element of children. But so honoring, taking care of the children, and then with the Death card in the fourth house, we can look at it as being, this is part of the coronavirus. This is part of, some of our brothers and sisters will be leaving. But to know that, of course, they just move on to a different, they get to graduate. They get to move on to another, it's a transitory card, so it's a transition into a new experience to go back to their eternal spirit, that no one ever truly dies. It's impossible. It defies the first law of physics. So, but on another level, this is a card about big change. And the white rose is always indicative of the love and the purity and the truth that's always there. And the white horse is that as well. So the big change with Chiron in the fourth house and in the sign of Aries, I believe the big change is to honor all that is sacred about the new life that wants to come through the family unit and through our homeland. I mean, we could look at this fourth house as just really honoring the family, in America, the families, and protecting our children. Protecting our children and taking care of the handicap and or anybody that is, any type of disability at all. Honoring, how much that they deserve to be supported to get through that. So, that's big change can be good. Changes can be good. I have to confess that I've gotten this card every time I've moved house. And it's always been a good move. I mean, it's not easy getting through it, but big change. And the change has always been good. Okay, so with the next house, we have for the fifth house, we have the Six of Swords. Now that's interesting. So with the Six of Swords in the house of creativity, the house of self-expression, our creative self-expression, and our pleasure, recreation. Now, so this is a card of change. This is a card of moving into smoother waters. See how it's kind of like wavy waters here and it's smoother this way. And it's a transitory card. So, and this really is true when you think about it. Because of the pandemic, because of the coronavirus, we are having to recreate ourselves into new ways of expressing ourselves. So everything is more online. Right? And I didn't think of it in the moment, but with the South Node being in Aquarius, our South Node, and what we value in our resources, that's, of course, ruled by Uranus, and Uranus rules the internet. So, moving forward, our creative self-expression is going to take on more of a transitory, or moving forward in ways to make the internet a much more smooth experience, and especially like the group, experience of like Zoom and there's lots of online streaming platforms now too, which is just like live stream. There's so much. So I think that this means that. Once we're through this, that probably internet speeds will be much better. There could be some transitory issues around the internet. But then again, they're moving towards smoother water. But that doesn't mean that we haven't come from a very choppy experience, and that is definitely true. So, okay, so I feel like we're getting a little boggled up here with the symbol, so I'll move the cards away. Okay, so now for the sixth house, we have the Emperor. So this is coming into our authority over our health. This is not trusting authority, not trusting our health to authority. This is becoming our own. While you may have a good staff of doctors, you may have a very good experience with different clinics. This is the card that relates to being your own inner authority over your own health, because it's often not a one-size-fits-all. I mean, at least that's been my experience, especially like if you just bring it back to what the sixth house is all about, which is our diet. It's diet, health, service, daily routines. Now, with Uranus there, that means that there's always changes and more information. But coupled, bringing the Emperor into that, I believe this has to do with needing to get on board, because this dude's all about structure, right? I mean, it's a 4. So we're talking 4 corners, boundaries. So there's the structure of, and this goes with, we have to wear a mask when we go out. We need to be very careful about inhaling or getting any type of, the germs into our mucous membranes, like through our eyes and up into our nose. And, like if we happen to eat something, it's not so bad because it just, our digestion will take care of it, the stomach juices. But if we breathe in the coronavirus, we could, unless we've got a really strong immune system, which the Emperor is all about, this does have to do with the immune system. So, and it's also the card that rules over Aries. I mean, you can see the ram here on the card, and up here, these little symbols. It does have to do with Aries. So that's all about the immune system and the divine spark and the strength of who you are deep down inside. We all have that divine spark, that flame, the eternal light that never dies. So if we can tap into our own inner authority and work at protecting ourselves, changing because with Uranus here, there's always going to be like changing the routine up. Because new information comes in, there's a new communication there that comes in. And especially with Mercury being in our 8th house, it can bring in information from other lands, other foreign lands that help support us as well. Okay, so that's interesting. Now for the, let's go ahead and bring these back in. For the 7th house this can sometimes be like the house of open enemies, but it's a house of relationships. And we have Gemini and Cancer there. With Mars in Gemini, that has to do with the desire and the passion for new information and to communicate, and that goes well with our moon in Aquarius here. Those two signs work together well. So gathering more information. It looks to me like the emphasis on gathering more information for the sustainability of all that is sacred to us. I'm tapping into the Cancer energy here. So the family, growth, planting new seeds. This has to do with our, when I think of growth, I think of, and look at this, we have Mercury in Cancer too, and our part of fortune in Cancer. So this has to do with our, growing our food production, our ability to sustain ourselves with food, and especially coupled with the 2nd house here. Our South Node and Pluto. There's strength and power, but that doesn't mean that we won't go through difficult times in order to make the changes that we need. And that's where having that Mars in Gemini is good about that, but it can also be challenging as far as disinformation, as far as lies. That we have to be careful of that, and especially lies coming in from other countries. Okay, so as far as relating the 4 of Swords into this house of relationships, this has to do with taking a break and meditation. I think that there are a lot more people on the planet meditating just to help with anxiety. There are a lot more people needing rest nowadays. But this also, coupled with the Death card, there is, these go with the coronavirus. They definitely go with the coronavirus. Yeah, so our homeland is going through big change, and the need to rest, the need to meditate. Our relationship with rest is probably changing. When the coronavirus first hit, there was a lot of talk about the Great Pause because we had to go into lockdown. And finally, people started getting 8 hours of sleep. And finally, there was some healing. Like, it was okay at first. Now I believe it's a balancing. I believe the big change has to do with a balance. And this is an opportunity to get in touch with who we really are, each one of us as individuals. And to be in that restful, meditative, centered place. Like after you're battle weary, this is the card usually like after a battle, this would be the This is traditionally in the old days, it would be like the warrior coming home, and he would lay on top of his own coffin and be grateful that, he'd be super grateful to the powers, the greater powers for bringing him home safely. So this could be true for a lot of people. It could be that they're just super grateful for the fact that they're alive and they're not so outer oriented. This is a very inner oriented card. So I believe this has more to do with our relationship with ourselves, which, will shift the relationship in the outer world as well. But it's a much more contemplative experience. So that's actually not a bad card to have for the 7th house. Okay, now for the 8th house, we have the King of Wands. Now, the King of Wands brings in something new. Something regenerative. And for the 8th house, that it is the house of regeneration and rebirth and renewal. This also has to do with taxes, and it has to do with death. Traditionally it's like sex, which I look at just life force, and then death I look at as rebirth as well. And but it's also a deeper psychological awareness. And with the King of Wands, it's all about what new ways can we, what new things can we implement into our new way of being that furthers the growth, that is much more deeply connected to, remember with our 4th house here being in Aries. Again, this is another Aries card. It's also the other fire sign, so Aries, Leo, or Sag. And within the tarot, there's a wisdom that the Emperor rules over all the kings. So to remember with the Emperor being in the 6th house of health, there's the I get that this is a lot of new life that sprouts, because if our relationship with ourselves is shifting to a much more inward, experience, then the next stage has to do with just something that's much bigger, much more open, much more visionary. This is a leadership type of an energy. And, now this makes sense too on just an individual level, because we're having to be our own entrepreneurs. Unless you're in the healthcare or the food service industry, or you own your own business in maybe like online sales, type of thing, we're all having to reinvent ourselves. And I see that that's what this card really means. Yeah, that certainly makes a lot of good sense there. Okay, now our 9th house, our house of beliefs. Now, Neptune natally in that part of the chart definitely has to do with our source energy, tied to our with Virgo there, tied to our crops, our food. It's like home and hearth type of energy. It's also health. So we're come from a belief in finding our own source and trying to find our way within, what do we really believe in? Do we believe in ourselves inside, and everyone has their own inner path and our own inner wisdom to guide us? Or do we believe in somebody else telling us how to behave and what to do? So within the Virgo energy there, it's constantly renewing but going deeper. It's a very growth-oriented, earthly experience. But it also goes with adjusting. Virgo energy is so good at making adjustments because on one level you're striving for perfection, and on another level you hit the wall at some point. You realize, oh, I'm human, I can't be perfect. Right? Deep down in our cores we have a perfect ball of energy, but that never dies. But on our human experience, we're here on a planet of duality. Like we are unitive beings having a dualistic experience. So we're moving, in that realm of what do we really believe in, and so we're constantly having to make adjustments. Do we believe in the forces of love? Do we believe that there is limitless abundance in the universe? Do we believe in our creativity? Do we believe in the fact that we can always regenerate? As long as we're coming from our love and we're moving towards win-win situations, and we're protecting the earth and trying to protect each other, why can't things just be greater and greater? Why can't we be in a benign circle of abundance? Right? I mean, that's actually the way it is. In the real reality is complete abundance. But not everybody believes that. So we could say the United States is a wonderful place to incarnate or to inhabit in order to help, heal that split, that inner split where you don't believe in all that's good. And whatever we believe is what will be mirrored back to us, of course. But then again, in this dualistic, imperfect plane that we live on, this plane of existence, we are always having to adjust. And the most important thing I can ever say about that is to not take anything personally when things don't work out the way that you wanted. It's a natural, normal. It's just it's such a normal human way of being, is to think that there's something wrong with us when things don't go right. So, but just to remember that because our true essence, our source energy within, that's the way I see Neptune, is that our eternal spirit comes from unity, where it's all love, it's all bliss, it's all peace. And because that's who we truly are in essence in our cores, we carry a remembrance of that in the cellular, memory in the nucleus of every cell in our bodies. We have a remembrance of that, like a deep inner knowing of that reality, and that's the real reality. But it doesn't appear that way here on Earth, which is, on Earth we have this dualistic experience of lots of either or, or mental constructs. So what can happen when life doesn't go as we planned, Virgo planning? We can sometimes feel that there's something wrong with us, like somehow we're inadequate and lacking. We could even compare ourselves against others. That's a very human flaw that we have, which we shouldn't never do, but we all do it, right? So when we believe these lies about ourselves, like we're less than, when we think in our essence we're somehow inferior, and that's an opportunity to know that these are passing emotional reactions, and there's nothing at all wrong with us. It's just the way it seems, but it's not the truth. It's not the truth at all. And our task in those times is to connect with our inner beings, our source energy here, and to remember that life on Earth, it's not perfect, and we don't need to be perfect either. We're merely human, and we can let go of this needing to be, perfect, and just be with what is. But then because we have that remembrance in the spirit world where, when we thought of something and felt it, whatever it is that we wanted, bam, like Shazam, we had it. Because that's how it is in the spirit world. There's no such thing as a time-space continuum. So we come here on Earth and we have that remembrance, and then things don't go as planned, and then we think there's something wrong with us because it didn't go as planned. And it's not, that's just not true. There's nothing wrong with us because of, because things didn't go as planned, or we didn't get what we wanted, or we made a mistake, or others made mistakes that hurt us. It doesn't, don't take it personally. It's just that it's just different here on Earth. We're on a dualistic planet, and we have the limitations of time and space here. So we can truly feel disappointed, and sometimes the Virgo and Pisces, experience can be painful. It can be very, very painful. So when we get into those painful times, like we all do as humans, every one of us, we're going to have painful times. And we're going to have losses, we're going to have disappointments. When that happens, the key is to not take those disappointments personally and just take it as a learning opportunity. And that we're here on Earth to learn. The Earth is a school. So with that 9th house, what we got is the Fool. And the Fool is a new adventure. So we need to believe that we're on a new adventure moving forward. And with the 10th house, having Saturn in the 10th house with Libra, it has to do with we are learning to master justice and fairness and equality. And natally, it's trine Uranus, which tells me that there will always be, and this is Uranus rules the Fool card. And so with this trine here, we can always have new inventions. Now, doesn't that go beautifully with the King of Wands? So new adventures into new inventions. That's a very innovative quality there. The Fool is all about, just going on a new adventure, inventing new things. It's about spontaneity and having our spirits be much, much more free. It's about knowing the universe has your back. He's foolishly going to walk off a cliff if he keeps going and looking up at the sky. But he's got his little dog to warn him and hold him back, and maybe he'll bite his ankle and get him to stop. But it's about the free spirit. And the Fool card in the tarot is the reason that it's a 0, and it doesn't have a number assigned to it, is because the Fool travels through all the gateways of the rest of the major arcana. So it's an archetypal energy of spontaneity and following your passion and moving into new territory, which is, that's what the United States is all about. That's where we started with, we can do it on our own. We want something different, and we want to do it, our way. So now in the 10th house of profession, career, integrity, authority, we have the Knight of Wands. So that means something is going to shift soon, and something big and bold and brave is going to come in. And, it can be very driven, but also passionate and confident. It can be like, we dare to see ourselves in a new way. We dare to move forward under a new sense of inner authority. That's what I'm getting. And I don't really want to say any more about that because I think that that's the most important thing, is just to remember that to follow your passion and follow what matters to you most will be to someday come back to your own inner authority. And that's where your real integrity lies. You don't need any rules to tell you what's right and wrong. You deep down inside, we all know what's right and wrong. And it has to do with including everyone, with being a bridge. And we're mastering, with Saturn energy, we are mastering what is just and what is fair. Equality. So moving towards equality very quickly. Okay, so the 11th house of our wishes, hopes, goals, friends, we have the 3 of Swords. So we have to be careful with that. With, with some of us, we have come to the end of relationships that didn't pan out the way that we thought. We've learned where people's priorities lie, and they weren't in alignment with our authority and our the way that we want to be or the way that we are, and so we've had to either set boundaries and say, you don't get to talk to me that way, I'm not going to listen to things like that, you don't get to lie to me, we're not going to do that anymore. So friendships have gone through a bit of an opportunity to not betray yourself. Not betray yourself. And then the 12th house, which can sometimes be the house of undoing and unconsciousness, self-undoing. But I also see this as the house of a completion of, moving into a new level. And it's to me, it's one of the very, very spiritual houses. And we have the Ace of Pentacles for that. So that's beautiful. This is a new opportunity. This is, hopefully there's not too much of a glare, but can you see the little, the gate there, the archway and the path and all the white lilies? So it's an opportunity for peace and to walk through. Oh, here, let me turn the light off above. There we go. Get rid of that glare. So peacefully taking a new path that's peaceful is a brand new opportunity. And this is, a gift from the universe. It just says, it's here for you. Just take it. And go through that archway to a brand new reality. So completing this this time, getting through this time, the future for all of us here in the USA is very, very bright. This is a really, really beautiful card for creating something new. It's really beautiful. It's an opportunity, and financially too. It's an opportunity for a completely different experience of prosperity. But it's all about opportunity. As long as we plan, and we plan for, again, what is sustainable, and we don't go into this fantasy land of false information, which is out there. I think everything it'll be great. This is a really, really good card to have in the 8th house. But yeah, back to, big changes and regeneration, rebirth, renewal. I think those are the keys. Those are the major keys. Okay, so now let's take the tarot out of it and let's just look at, I'm not going to go through the shorter term transits, to our natal chart. I'll just look at what I can remember off the top of my head, because I should have printed out. Oh, wait, hold on. Do I have, oh, shit, let's see. I do have the November 3rd. Okay, so this chart is the election. This might be a little harder to see because now suddenly the symbols are smaller and I can't drop my camera any lower. Okay, so, but this is August, and these transits, these outer planetary transits that are here, the slower moving ones will still be in the same places. Like, for instance, Jupiter is in Capricorn now. I think it's at about 18 degrees. I could be wrong on that, but anyway, in our 2nd house, that's good. And remember I told you we're getting close to our Pluto return, so Pluto, it's still here at 22. It goes so darn slow. And by November 3rd, the election, which, it may take a week past that for the votes to be counted. And I dropped it in here at 10 o'clock at night thinking, maybe we'd know by 10 o'clock at night, or 10 o'clock that night on the 3rd. I'm thinking it's going to be, longer. And that especially is true because Saturn is here slowing things down, because our values are coming back into alignment with our original inception here. So we're going through a stage of mastering who we really are and what matters most. Yeah, that's amazing. But to have Jupiter in our second house is good, especially for finances, for financial, and for stock markets, Uranus in the fifth house. This fifth house is stock markets. That's a little bit of volatility and change. That's not the best. You'd have to be on top of it, from a moment to moment situation if you're a day trader. Unless you have a lot of disposable income, it's not something I don't know if I'd want to be involved in, unless you're into like conscious stocks. So that's a whole nother subject. But when it comes to like IRAs and retirement plans and all that, you don't usually have any control over that because somebody else is the fiduciary that handles that for you. And it's gonna go up and down. And Uranus it's gonna be in Taurus until, I don't know, I think it's 2026, I believe. Yeah. So it's going to be tied even more and more into healthcare the further there's probably some brand new inventions around healthcare over the next 6-7 years. Well, once it gets into our sixth house, then we'll have a 7-year transit of changes, big changes in healthcare. Maybe by then we'll have Medicare for all. That looks like that's on the horizon for us. That's what we're moving towards, is Uranus moving towards the sixth house. Right now we're inventing new things, we're creating new things, we're thinking in more terms of what is sustainable and what do we value most, especially here. Yeah. Okay, and then Neptune in the third, this is where we're in trouble with the lies. This is where we're running into the manipulation of the vote because of foreign lies. And we're just about at it's within orb of our Neptune opposition. So to me, an opposition can create a breakthrough, but it can be shocking, and it's definitely a tension. There's the polarity, the 2 points. So that balancing that out is the task. Yeah, but then again, this is moving towards November, right? So, but these are all the slow-moving planets. Definitely, Jupiter will be in the second house for the rest of the year. I mean, for a whole year, probably through 2021 at some point. It might shift into the third, which is not bad either. Jupiter's not bad. Now, sometimes Jupiter brings loss, especially when it's conjunct Pluto, and this is what we are experiencing. We're big changes in our values, big changes in our values. And yeah, I'm not going to pay a whole lot of attention to these planets that move so much more quickly. But Venus in the 10th house in Libra on the election is actually good, and Mercury as well, because in Libra we're talking about equality and justice. So that's actually really good. The moon in the 7th, moon in Gemini in the 7th. Yeah, that will be there. Well, but it'll shift and it can move up into the 8th, moon the 7th and the 8th. That's where I'm seeing that there could be a change in the actual election date. I mean, the calling the election. Yeah. Interesting. I mean, if we're just looking at just the outer planets, that's about all I'm seeing, is that we need to be really careful about lies and manipulation. And and we need to make sure we get our votes in early. And then with Chiron here, like I was saying before, that I already spoke to, that Chiron return that'll happen after. But Chiron in the fourth is, that's the, the painful, it can be sometimes painful awareness of really need to focus on what matters most, which is, everyone, being inclusive and being in truth. With Mars in Aries there can be some healing. Mars can be healing. It can also, well, it definitely moves the energy. It can be healing. It can also be wounding, depending on how you use it. It's always about how you use it. So moving towards that conjunction with Chiron, yeah, we need to be thinking and planning and taking care of those who are not able to take care of themselves. We need to be thinking in bigger terms. We need to have the laws that protect the vulnerable. And that's what we're moving towards, that's what's happening. Moving towards that in our homeland, and for our family and protecting our families and for protecting our children. That's where we're headed with this new election. Yeah. Okay, you guys. I think that's all I'm seeing for now with my little pea brain. I'm Any other astrologers out there, I so welcome your comments and add on. Please add on to what I just started here. I just feel like I'm kind of at a loss to find anything else for right now. And thank you guys so much for watching, and please take good care. Okay, bye.